Good morning. All right, today we're going to do, in our reading, we're going to do a skill station day. And we're going to be working on, you don't need your reader book, but you need your work text on page 234 and 235. So if you'll have those pages out and just kind of keep them close by. Now remember, we were talking about on a skill station day, we've been talking all these skill stations about the Pony Express. So I've put a picture up here. When I typed in Pony Express, this came up. Now, obviously, you can see these things here in the background, so we know this is a present day picture, but it may be something where they're portraying the Pony Express. So, anyway, I'm going to go ahead and read to you a little bit about the horses of the Pony Express, and then we'll actually get down to business on the lesson that we're doing today. At its peak, the Pony Express was delivering mail overland with the help of about 80 courageous and determined men and over 400 fast horses. The riders had to be honest, dependable, and lightweight. But what about the horses? What did they have to be like? For the eastern half of the trail, the Pony Express chose horses bred for speed and endurance. The land in Kansas, Nebraska, and Wyoming was flatter than the land farther west, so swift racing or cavalry horses were best suited to this part of the trail. Many of these were thoroughbreds and Morgan horses, whose lengthy strides could quickly eat up long prairie miles. For the middle and western sections of the Pony Express Trail, pintos and mustangs were purchased. Though not as fast as thoroughbreds or Morgan horses, mustangs that had tough hooves and that were used to desert conditions could scramble over rocky obstacles more quickly than the sleek racing horses of the East. While running the western section of the Express Trail, the little mustangs seemed to be able to run endlessly under very harsh conditions. Both types of horses had qualities that made them valuable. They were very different, yet one type was not better than the other. Both types were needed to accomplish the task of the Pony Express and to make it a success. So, what types of horses did the Pony Express need? Swift race horses for those flat prairie lands, tough mustangs, Morgan horses. So in parts they needed them to run really fast on flat ground, and then in other places there was more rocky and more harsh conditions, more a mountainous area. That's where they used those mustangs. So how were the Pony Express horses like a team? Well, their different abilities and their talents were combined to work for a particular goal. So let's go ahead and look at this page right here. So as those riders were coming in carrying the mail, we learned about this I think last week when we did our other skill station. You know, they'd wait and they'd hang around the people that lived there, and they'd have to wait, but then they'd start hearing all the noises, the hoof beats, and the sounds that they would hear when they were coming in. So there were signals that would alert these keepers at the Pony Express that an approaching rider needed another horse. At the blast of the rider's horn or at the sound of the horse's hoofbeats, the keeper knew just what to do. They had a signal that would alert them. Now this is going to carry us in now to our lesson, what we're studying today. So let me make this a little bigger. I'm not sure what you're using. I don't know if you're using a TV or computer, but I'm not sure what will help you see this better. All right, so there are signals in words that tell where one syllable stops and where another one begins. Okay, so let's look at this word right here, unloaded. You see this word here. So what is it in this word that signals something unusual, that signals something about this word that we can divide into syllables? It's a prefix and a suffix. Now, load is what we would consider the root word or the base word. Comes before it, so it's called a prefix. This comes after it, so it's called a suffix. Together, you call them affixes. So the word load, the base word load, can have either just a prefix or it could have a suffix, but when it has both, we say that it has affixes. It has both. Now, so prefixes and suffixes are signals. A word with a prefix or suffix is usually divided into syllables between the base word, which is this, and the prefix or the suffix. So notice. So let's clap the word unloaded. Ready? Unloaded. Now you notice where those syllables would be between the prefix and the suffix. Now sometimes the base word actually will have syllables within it too, but load is a base word that's just one clap, one syllable, so there's no dots in there. So now I want you to look at the suffix ed. We're going to concentrate on ed just for a few minutes. Now ed has its own special signal. Look at these words here: plodded, threaded, trotted, and panted. Notice these words. Now, what comes at the end of each of the base words? Because notice these are all divided, by the suffix. But what comes each base word? Plod, thread, trot, and pant. Each one of those base words does what? They end with the consonant D or T. Now let's clap these out. So you have plodded, threaded, trotted, panted. Now notice these two here: trailed and stopped. Notice these here. Now anytime that you have a base word that ends in a D or a T, then your ed, your suffix ed, is going to be a separate syllable. Plodded, threaded, trotted, panted. But if you read this word, trailed, that's just one. You would not, because it's not trailed or stopped. And so since these base words do not end with a D or a T, then you don't divide the word between the suffix there. Remember, I've said it before, in the English language, there are always, for every single rule, there are always some rule breakers. So trail and stop, neither one of those end with a D or a T. So always remember and take that signal on that base word. If your base word ends with a D or a T, then you're definitely going to put a dot beside the ED. But notice these here, plotted. Notice how they didn't put the dot there. They did it between the two D's because this is the VCCV pattern. But this is not the VCCV, so they've put a dot there. This one, VCCV. Okay, this one is not. So you have to be real careful about that as well. Okay, all right. Now also remember how we have when we've studied before. You may have, I think I've studied with you before, but I know you've learned this before. Any word that ends with SH, CH, S, X, or Z, anytime that you need to make it plural, you always add ES, right? Okay, well, let's clap these words. Bushes, lunches, passes, fixes, fizzes. Now, so anytime you have words that end with SH, CH, S, X, or Z, and it has an ES as the suffix, then you're going to divide the word between there. Notice right here we have vowel, consonant, consonant, vowel. But do you remember what SH and CH are? These are digraphs. You can never separate those. Okay, right here we have V, C, C, V as well, but why wouldn't they divide the word right there? Because pass is your base word, and you're not going to divide the two S's up from the base word because then you wouldn't have a base word. Same thing with fizzes right here. Now here's some exceptions to the rule. Rods and pastes. Now we don't say rodes or pastes, correct? So let's figure out why. Well, all of these have the suffix of es, correct? Notice what these end with, these base words. They all end with CH, SH, S, X, or Z. These do not. Thus, you don't use ES as a separate syllable on this. All right, let's check out one more page here. I'm going to zoom in on this so it'll be a little bit easier for you to see on this one. So, Now, at the end of a hard ride for his pony, the rider has dismounted. Now, the keeper will have to unsaddle it and begin currying it or grooming and cleaning it. So let's look closely at this word, dismounted. In this word, what is your root word or your base word? Mount, correct? Which syllable is accented? Notice it has affixes. It's got a prefix and it's got a suffix. But which syllable is accented? Remember, when it's accented, that means it's the syllable that we say the loudest when we say the word. Say the word dismounted out loud. Just say it normally. Dismounted. Dismounted. Did you notice that the base word is the one that has the accent? That's the one that sounds the loudest when we say it. So when you've got words that have prefixes or suffixes, almost always the accent will fall on or within the base word. Now on this word, unsaddle, you just have a prefix. Saddle is your base word. Now this is where you would divide your base word. Okay, because you have V, C, C, V, and that's all it ends with. Okay, and it has to go, consonant L-E has to go there as well. So kind of like two rules that go there. So if you say the word unsaddle, and just say it normally, unsaddle, unsaddle. See, that's the one, this is the part of the base word that needs the accent. Let's look at currying. Currying. Notice how it's V, C, C, V. So they've done it right there. And between the ing, that's your suffix. Currying. Notice how that's louder. All right, let's look at bronco. Now, some base words have two syllables like saddle and curry. Those are what we were looking at just then. Now, bronco is an example of a word without a suffix or a prefix. So which syllable is accented? It's the first syllable, bronco. Now, look at these examples. Stirrup, gallop, canter, ambush, problem, bridle, marshal, mustang, cattle, splendor. Notice that all of these on the first, these are all two-syllable words. They're two claps. And so the first syllable, generally, when there are two syllables, generally it's the first syllable that has the accent. Okay, just two base words. No prefixes, no suffixes on these. Now, two-syllable words like frontier, look at this one. This is also two-syllable words, okay? But why does it have the accent on this one, not the first one? Because generally when you've got two-syllable words, it's the first one. Why is that? Well, let's look at these. Enjoy, balloon, collapse, trombone. Notice all of these are two-syllable, just like these. No prefixes and no suffixes. So why is it on these that the second one is accented? Well, notice up here in the second syllable, how many nouns, how many vowels are in each one of these second syllables? Just one in all of these. See, they're green, just one. Now, notice how many vowels are in the second syllable down here. In this one, Y is considered a vowel. O and E, two O's, an A and an E. Okay, these are all, because these have two vowels, then these are going to be your accented syllables. These just have one, so it's going to be the first one. I know you're probably saying, how in the world am I going to remember all of this? Well, you don't necessarily have to remember all of this. These are just good ways of kind of training your brain a little bit at a time on how to read and how to pronounce words the correct way. So let's look in your book at page 234. Got some horns on this page. Now, it says to read each word and write any signal letters. Divide the word if it has more than one syllable. Then write the number of syllables. All right, so here we have painted. Okay, so let's first put the dot where it goes. Where is it going to go? It's going to go, now see, notice paint ends with a T, so that means ED is a separate syllable, so it's going to go right between the T and the E. So put your dot between the T and the E. Now, your signal letter was T. That showed us that T, and so that, and then we have two syllables. So you'll put T, and then under syllables you'll put two. Now look at stormed. Stormed. It's one syllable, And there are no signal words. It's just one syllable. Okay? Let's do walked. Walked. One syllable. Just put one under syllables. And there's no signal words. How about banded? Banded. There's two syllables. What's our signal letter to let us know that there's going to be two in that word? It's going to be the D, because our base word band ends with a D. So your dot's going to go between the D and the E. Okay? All right. I want you to pause it for a second and finish the other one, the one right beside it, and then turn it back on, and we'll check and make sure you got it right. All right. So for hides, it's just one syllable, no signal letters. For swishes, your signal letter is SH, two syllables, and your dot goes between the H and the E. On shames, there's no signal letters and it's one syllable. For coaxes, the dot goes between the X and the E. Your signal letter is the X, and your syllables, there are two. Okay? Now, on the horns down here at the bottom, it says to place an accent mark over each accented syllable. All right? So, each one of these words on all 12 of these horns, these are all two syllable, each one of them. So remember, sometimes it's going to be on the first and sometimes it's going to be on the second. The way you tell is you look at that second syllable in each word. If there's one vowel, you put the accent mark on the first. If there's two vowels, you put it on the second. So let's look at honest. Okay, the second syllable is EST. There's one vowel, so you're going to put the accent mark above the N, above that first syllable. Okay, let's look at quickly. Okay, quickly. Now, you have in your second syllable, you have L and a Y, one vowel, so that means it's going to go on the first part, which is going to go beside the K, your little accent mark. Remember, it's just a little, almost like an apostrophe, but not curved, just kind of straight. Now, let's look at panted. Okay, where's your syllable accent mark going to go? Not syllable, but your accent mark is going to go above the T. What about remind? Now, remind is a little different. So let's say remind. 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 Which one of those is the loudest? It would be the second, but there is only one vowel. That's one of those exceptions to the rules. You just kind of got to say the word. Look at cocoon. Okay, how many vowels are in that second syllable? There's two. So that means your accent mark is going to go over the N. It's going to go on that second syllable, cocoon. Tumble, where's it going to go? Over the M. Morgan, over the R. Employ, over the Y, because the Y is considered a vowel. So that second syllable has an O and a Y, which means it has two vowels. Look at polite. Where's your accent mark going to go? Over the E. What about racing? It's going to go over the C. Western. Over the T. Unwrap. Over the P. All right. That again, unwrap is one of those. It's a word that has a prefix, unwrap, just like the word above it on remind. Re is also a suffix, so that's why the base word had it on there. So we can't go by the two vowel rule because it has a prefix on it. All right, I hope I didn't confuse you there. I know sometimes that can get a little confusing. I'd like for you to finish page 235. It is not for a grade, but I do want to look at it and see it. Okay? So go ahead and finish that, and then tomorrow we'll get ready to start a new story that I think you're really going to love. Okay? All right, that's all for today.